Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, we're episode 322. I am Mike Albertin, Red Leader, standing by.
I'm Kendall, Red 2, standing by. Actually, I should be Red 9, but it's fine.
Milk, and we'll get those guns, Captain, or whatever that line was. That was so cheesy.
Where are you? Fuck that lady. Rogue leader, where are you? I'm Trey. This fake Lando really sucks at flying the Falcon, Johnson.
And Trey, where we find you at?
You can find me at Nintendo Main Podcast. We have all sorts of things. Patreon.com/Nintendo Main Podcast, YouTube.com/Nintendo Main Podcast. We're on Blue Sky, various places. Google it. You can find it out there.
Kendall, where can people find you at?
You can find everything I do at kendallcast.ninja. I do podcasts, a movie roundtable show, meditative Pokemon show called Beyond Bulbasaur, and a bunch of stuff about the Star Wars customizable card game, the out-of-print Decipher game that's awesome. I think those are my main shows right now. And also on YouTube, Kendallcast Network on YouTube. Lots of stuff.
Say, Star Wars Duels? Is that the one you talk about? That was the last Star Wars card game that I played. If you remember that one from, I don't fucking know, like the mid-90s sometime.
Yeah. So the Decipher game went out of print in 2001, and there's a small but passionate community known as the Players Committee that have an agreement with Lucasfilm and with Decipher to continue the game through making new cards and hosting events and all sorts of stuff. There's even free online play. It's pretty amazing.
Oh wow!
And I actually have two people from that community on this podcast. Not now, but that are part of this podcast. And I met Kendall because of that. Not that I'm not a part of it, but he came up to Minneapolis where I live. So, and we are here to talk about a Star Wars game that I've been meaning to play for, this came out in 2002 or 2001, and I've been meaning to play since 2001. A Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader, developed by Factor 5 and LucasArts, published by LucasArts, and then, as I said, came out 2001. It was a launch title for GameCube, which I forgot. Yep. And this is actually a game my mom did find, because she bought this for me, because she knew I liked Star Wars.
I might have got it as a gift, too. I mean, it was one of my very first GameCube games. So I have a lot of history with Rogue Squadron.
So the fact that it's a launch title, this is how Star Wars games were and how video games were and how consoles were in whatever year that was. What was that, 2001?
2001.
2000, yeah. 99, 83, I don't know. But you had the GameCube, the PS2, and the original Xbox all came out roughly the same time. All three had Star Wars launch titles. You had Rogue Squadron, you had Rogue Leader on GameCube, you had Bounty Hunter on PS2, and then you had Episode 1 Obi-Wan on Xbox.
Which one? What was on PS2?
Bounty Hunter.
Are you talking about the Jango Fett one?
The Jango Fett game.
That wasn't a PS2 launch game, though, because that didn't come out till 2002, because that was on GameCube also. I played through it all the way.
Yeah, it's on both systems.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't. But PS2 came out in 2000, and that was not out then, because
it was
Episode 2 wasn't out yet.
Yeah, well, it came out around this. Well, yeah,
there might have been some other stuff.
Maybe it wasn't a launch title. It was. I'm pretty sure that it was at least. I'm pretty sure that it was at least a timed exclusive for the PS2. I was thinking there was a Christmas or something where those were the three Star Wars games. Yeah, I'm basing this off of my memory,
because I know that PS2 number 1 came out before GameCube, and the Bounty Hunter came out much later than this game, or at least a year later, and I guess it felt like a longer time when I was younger. But I got Bounty Hunter like day release for GameCube, and I don't remember it being different. But I mean, I thought they all released at the same time, because I got that one and the other Clone Wars game. Like,
I don't know if they had timed exclusives yet at that time. I think it was just exclusives. I don't think it was timed like we have now. Yeah. But a long time ago, Bounty Hunter is, but that's also on this podcast.
So it was released for PlayStation 2 and GameCube, but
it got like a week between each other. It was on November 22nd on PlayStation 2 and December 5th on.
It wasn't on Xbox. It wasn't on Xbox. My point is, everything didn't come out for every console back then, and there were a bunch of and we had a bunch of great Star Wars games that came out. Episode 1 Obi-Wan is one of these like elusive games that like I haven't been able to figure out a way to emulate original Xbox, and that's one of the Xbox titles that is not backward compatible with Xbox 360, so I've never been able to play it, which makes me want to play it more. Although, and it's also never been re-released.
Never will be.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Well, that's not righteous use too.
I always kind of wanted to play it, just because it was, uncharted territory or whatever. It was got games that I never, that I couldn't play because I never had an Xbox. I felt the same way about Knights of the Old Republic, because that was a console exclusive for a while.
And PC.
My buddy Travis, who loaned me this GameCube, I actually asked him a few months ago if he had an original Xbox, because he's one of those people who has every single console ever made, none of them plugged in. And none of them having ever been plugged in.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a cool guy. But he said the original Xbox is the one console that he doesn't own. It's like,
actually,
I don't know.
I have a fat Xbox behind me. I don't know if it works anymore, but I do have it.
Okay, well, can I borrow it? I'll try next time I'm in Minneapolis.
They're probably not that expensive, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
they're not prohibitive. They're not prohibitively expensive. They are prohibitively expensive if you're only going to buy it so you can play one bad game on it.
Yeah, and the problem with them is nowadays that a lot of them, I think it was ones that were made in the first few years, have, if they don't get a certain repair done, one of the batteries starts leaking out. And and it'll just totally Shrek the Xbox. And I have never checked if mine is one of them, but I should, because I love it. It's still my original Xbox, and I've had it.
I'll never.
Yeah, so you might plug it in. It might not work, Mike.
That's fine. You're never going to get plugged in again, to be honest with you. You're just going to sit there as a paperweight because I'm waiting for emulation of Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, because you can get an emulator for Xbox. You can get an emulator for Xbox, but you have to have it's hard to find the BIOS or something.
Z moves
some
around.
Issues with it.
I'm waiting better every year, but
yeah, they'll eventually make it to where it works well.
And also with the my assumption is, and I don't know anything about computers, but if Obi-Wan is one of the 8 original Xbox games that they weren't able to make backward compatible on the 360, then probably it's not the easiest one to emulate.
Yeah. They can find a way. Like, this game is hard to emulate on the Steam Deck.
This game is very hard to emulate. I couldn't get it to work super well, and that's not any problem I had with this game. I had many, and that part I'd be like, hey, I can let that go. These are emulation things, and that's not the problem. And then everything else, I was like, this game is it's something.
I always let emulation problems be an emulation problem and not affect my thought of a game, because it's not their fault that I decided to argument. Like, that's a whole different story. Plus, I couldn't play this game without saline.
I was going to ask how many of us, because I know Kendall and I played it straight up, like on the regular GameCube, and you guys played it through emulators, right? Both
Steam Deck for me.
That is correct. Yeah, Dolphin emulator for me, and I got it better than it started, but it was still a lot of issues. GameCube emulation. I was reading about it just today because I was curious, and it has to do with how the GameCube basically likes to make shaders, and it does a lot of it like in the actual system, not like in the software. So when computer's emulating it, it's just a weird, funky little mess.
The only issue I had is the game would be a little choppy at times, like during cutscenes, but that wasn't a big deal to me.
Mine was mostly when there was like a lot of stuff on screen that, was, unless it was like space scenes were mostly fine, but when it had like skyboxes and little tiny units running around, then it would get choppier. But again, I could play through it. It was not like unplayable. So
I played worse.
I heard that if you emulate it and you don't play it on original hardware, then like all the levels are escort missions that you can like instant fail if a ship blows up. Did you guys run into that problem with the emulation?
They're close to that anyway.
Like that anyway. And there's
no, so this is the thing that happens on this podcast a lot, and I feel bad. I did not have any problem with the difficulty. I was fine through, but I will say I did not do the last 2 missions because by that point I was so like, I just don't want to play this anymore. And so now I'm really curious about this last level, and I think I will go back and play it to see.
I find the whole game hard, but I'm not good at space sims, this is kind of an arcadey space sim. I am not good at ship games. I'm not good at Star Fox 64. I am not good when I'm flying a plane.
I'll make an argument in your case that I think because of how the nature of this game is and the fact that you're not good at them to begin with, it was working against you. Because boy howdy, the AI and things in this would drive me nuts when it's like, oh, there's a guy behind me. Okay, I want to get him not behind me. And sometimes, depending on the ship, it's like, oh, they're just glued. They're glued there. And I go, all right, well, hopefully a teammate helps me because I don't have another option, I guess. And I think
you'd have a back gun or something if you were a ship.
Well, I mean, I was going to get into that later, but if you made it to the bonus mission where you get to do the asteroid belt stuff with the Millennium Falcon, it does actually fire behind you when people chase you. So it helps.
That would be nice.
So that's why I was going to say.
I wish that Lando would have done that on the Death Star.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Lando sucks at flying, and don't say that he didn't have anybody to operate the gun, because wasn't like Knee and Numb with him or some shit? Like,
that's what I was trying to remember. So Nine Numb is doing
more than just going forward and shooting forward. That's all he does in that level.
Yeah, Nine Numb is the co-pilot. So it's like he's like Lando and Nine Numb are like Han and Chewie. I don't remember who was in the quad laser. I mean, because Wedge was in the quad laser cannon in Rise of Skywalker, so maybe he didn't have anybody in the quad laser cannons.
I'm sure he had some. I bet if you watch the movie again, he shot that gun fired while he was on the Death Star.
You would have somebody in there
trying to raid and blow up one of the scariest like space stations in the galaxy, and you're like, nah, I don't need a back gunner. It's fine. I got it. All me.
I mean, Wedge is covering me, right? Right.
It's not like they were. I mean, they were stretched as thin as they could go. You know, maybe they were out of people. Yeah. I don't know. That's actually. I'm legitimately going to have to look into that.
I mean, I didn't take. I want to say time to watch Return of the Jedi again, but I mean, I'm sure they had more than 2 people on the ship.
I'm curious now too, but I don't want to watch Return of the Jedi just to find that part out. I do love that.
But yeah, I think I will say, I think now's a good time. My Star Wars connection is like pretty mid. Like I've seen not the newest trilogy. I've seen one of them, and I've seen like some of the newer shows, and I played a lot of the games.
Lieutenant Blount and Kraken were the gunners.
Of course, I totally know them. They're my favorites.
Lieutenant Blount? Yeah, I got 6 figures of him down here. You should see him. I'm kidding. I don't know.
There's a Star Wars Blount. Is Kraken is in this game, isn't he?
I don't know who Kraken is.
General Aaron Kraken. I feel like he should be in this game. If he's not, he's one of those rebel names that you just is in stuff.
I mean, I was a pretty hardcore Star Wars guy in high school, and I don't remember.
I guess it's Crix Madine. Crix Madine is who's
I remember
usually
Crix
yelling at him.
Yeah, you get to rescue him in Dark Forces 1.
So the stars, Milk, as you can tell, we are surrounded by big Star Wars fans.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm just on the opposite side of the table on many subjects when it comes to this game. Star Wars fandom, how I feel about the game. I don't know what else. We'll find out.
What is
wrong Kraken. Sorry, wrong Kraken. Colonel Kraken is the one that was in the Battle of Endor.
That's so
General Aaron Kraken is a completely different character.
Okay.
The thing is, he's not joking. Like their Star Wars is so massive. Like
I believe it. It's
we have
it's
the
very
fandom.
funny.
Great. He's probably got like 5 books written about him.
It's funny
Kraken.
It's funny when you Google like random names from Star Wars and you see like their picture from the movie and you're like, oh, that's just a dude, and it looks weird. But then they like have him in a comic and I'm like, oh, okay, now it looks weird. But when it's just a dude, I'm like, I don't like this. Giving me willies.
Like even before the prequels and the Disney shit, like they wrote not like a whole book, but a whole story about the fucking droid that blew up on Tatooine, like for and how he like felt for
Skippy the Jedi.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of fucking dumb shit out there for Star Wars.
Yeah, it's that's a great
R4D5 or whatever his name is.
R5D4. That's a great comic. It was actually it was Tales, so it was never canon, but
whatever.
Yeah, but it's still great.
It was in a book that was released
by Peter David
on hardback. So it was canon at one point. I'm just saying it was a stupid story, regardless.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't canon. It was in Star Wars Tales, which was never canon. That comic was never canon. It was a lower level of canon.
It was a book. But, I mean, there was a hardback book that I read called like Tales from whatever from.
What are you saying? All the Tales stuff isn't canon.
But I mean, at the time it was.
No,
I mean there was no internet, so we didn't know. But I mean, it was
we
thought it was.
I get what
so you had multiple levels of canon. You had movie canon, then you had television canon, then you had like in continuity, which is like that was like Thrawn trilogy and like novels, and then below that was Tales, which were not canon. And Skippy the Jedi Droid by Peter David was not canon.
I mean, I don't think I actually knew anything about what was canon or wasn't canon when it came out. And also, I think there's 2 different stories because there's a book that just had a bunch of different short stories in it that wasn't a comic that I read that came out in, I don't know, 95.
It probably was just.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tales of the Skippy the Jedi Droid wasn't in Tales of the Cantina or Tales from Jabba's Palace or Tales from the Empire.
There was a story about the droid that blew up in that book. I don't say his name was Skippy the Jedi droid. I think it was just called R5D4, but it was in there. I mean,
Star Wars is a massive,
but it doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah,
but I mean that's where I read it.
So what I do want to say is our memories with this. So for me, it's like I kind of mentioned before, my mom had got this for me, but I sucked at this game. I got a couple levels in and I never finished it. I didn't like it personally. I'm like, it's too hard. I mean, I like Rogue Squadron, not playing it. I like watching Rogue Squadron.
I think the 64 one is harder than this one.
Probably is. They're both very hard.
Yeah, I would say that. I'd also say, like, I played the 64 one as a kid, and I liked it. And I always saw, for some reason, the most memorable thing in this game, in my mind, historically, is just the box art. Like, I look at that box art, I'm like, yep, I remember seeing that a lot. I never played it, but I
was just one of those things that was around a lot because it was a launch title, so they probably was just sitting at game stores. I mean, I remember it too.
Yeah. I think in a general context, I think this one brought in a lot of new stuff and they did a lot of things. And I think some of them were really cool. And some of them I'm just like, I don't need this. I feel like it's as a launch title, especially, or a close launch title, like, oh, this is our first one on the GameCube. What can we do? And they're like, oh, we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff just because we can.
This game was also made in 9 months.
I thought a lot of it kind of its hardness versus I don't know. It made it a little bit harder because it's like, since we have the GameCube now, we can have you destroy like 2 Star Destroyers instead of like 1, and like we could send a lot more shit at you because of the the new power of the GameCube and that sort of thing. But I mean, this game blew me away, and like all of my friends at the time, when we first got GameCubes, just because playing 64 for so long and having no FMV, and this one has like FMV everywhere.
Yeah.
Like in the menus and the pause screen, like it's like, hey, we're on discs now. We can do FMV. Like, look at it. So it was, and it like still loads really quickly. Like for from like playing stuff on PS1 and even like some PS2 stuff at the time didn't load as quick as this one did. So it was pretty impressive to see like Nintendo's first disc thing or whatever. So I've been a big fan of it since it came out, and it was definitely a staple. I only had like this, Smash Brothers, and Tony Hawk 3, and that was like all you needed.
I think that's a big part of this is every time I play a game for this podcast, I always am like under crunch time because I'm bad at video games. And so it takes me, if you go to howlongtobeat.com and see how long it takes to beat the game, I always have to double it.
Sure, yeah. Well, especially like this one, even though there's only like 8 missions or something in there, it's like you got to play them over and over. If you don't have cheats, quote unquote save states, it's like call them, but it would make the game
hard. Even with save states, this game is hard.
I feel like save states wouldn't help because so many. I almost never failed because I ran out of lives.
Game to beat on average for this one for the main story is 6 hours, which that's pretty close for me.
If you're good at it,
I need to look at the missions. I think I didn't have a problem with the mission until like something like the 6th one, and then it was the one where
you had to keep going back to your ship to prevent it from blowing up. And then I saw where you have to like just destroy, I think it's like a Star Destroyer that then crashes on the planet. Like that was the first mission that I died. I died a few times.
Yeah, that's kind of like the halfway point. That's like you got to get good enough to get through that one. But it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty easy if you. I don't know. I did it. It took me a few times, but if you go, if you can destroy the Star Destroyer quick enough, you don't have to really
that's basically is what I figured out is like, there's just, I feel like levels in this, if you do things kind of, you find a way to get like avoid fire as much as possible. You can just like sneak up on things, blow it up, and then leave and do it again. And I found that was my tactic that finally worked. I'm like, oh, okay. I was able to find other levels later that had little stuff like that. I'm like, oh, if I just do it like this, it's easy rather than kind of going at it.
See, so I mean, I feel like that's the only way to beat those levels because if you don't, because so much of it is you have to get it, you have to achieve the objectives before the Imperials blow up some ship or something. So, or there's like a bunch of variables, like it's like you only have limited number of lives. Although I did use the double lives. The only code that I used was to double my lives most of the time. I mean, not every time because every time you fire up the GameCube, you have to enter the code in again. It doesn't just keep it with the save file, which was kind of annoying. But for the most part, that actually wasn't like as relevant as I thought it was going to be. There were a couple levels where it came up, but for the most part, I did not die because I ran out of lives. I died because the transport got blown up.
Yeah,
and And so they don't communicate particularly well. Especially the thing with the Star Destroyer was they tell you to blow up the 3 shield generators. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I talked to my friend who's also a big Star Wars fan right after I played that level. Guess what?
Yeah, no.
Star Destroyers have 2 shield generators. The third thing that you're shooting at is the main reactor.
I was pretty sure that was the case. I was pretty sure that was the case because I played a lot of Battlefront 2, and you'd blow up. You'd have the space battles, and I'm like, I don't think we called this that in Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Star. Okay, Kendall, thank you. I was wondering the same thing. I'm like, the Star Destroyer only has 2 on the top. It doesn't have on the bottom. I didn't know it was a reactor, but I'm like, this is also me being too big of a Star Wars nerd in this case. But the game didn't communicate it very well. Like, it wasn't like a thing saying this. I literally had to Google, and Google didn't help me, and I had to watch a YouTube and go, okay, that's what he did. Like, for the bridge, you have to shoot the bridge, and I'm like,
the bridge, I had to do the same thing.
Is the bridge.
The targeting computer?
So
No.
The targeting computer, also that does tell you,
I could kind of see it, but like when I was looking at the ship, there was so much going on. I'm like, I'm sure one of these is the bridge. I don't care to keep trying to figure it out. And like the colors would, and that might have been an emulation thing. It's like colors of like targets versus just enemies would start to like, I don't know. It was me. I was like, I don't know how to discern.
That was an emulation.
It was driving me nuts. I want to jump back. If we're going to talk about this game communicating things, I'm going to jump way back to the fucking tutorial level.
Oh,
I hated that level.
I didn't bother with that.
So,
with the one with the sand?
Yes, on Tatooine. Yeah, or whatever, where it's like, hey,
all right, that wasn't Jakku?
It was not Jakku.
We're going to drop you in.
It was the original sand planet before the one that's just filled with movie props. Is that what Jakku is?
Yes. But anyway, it's like, we're just going to drop you in. And then there's float little symbols everywhere. And I went, okay. And so I flew into one. And the first one I did was like, all right, win at this race. And I tried like 3 times and I wasn't doing it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then I'm like, I guess I'll try a different one. Then it's like, hit this button to boost. And I'm like, if you're going to give me a tutorial level, don't just be like, shrug, you figure it out. And that was my first gripe with this game. I was already like, oh, I don't know about this one. And just everything after that, I think maybe that soured it from the beginning, but I don't know. Everything since then, I was just like, I don't feel like this game cares to keep, like, I feel like it's either a level I go through it, I get to the end, I'm like, okay, I feel like I figured everything out I was supposed to do. Or it's like, oh no, you fucking figure it out. I don't know. Get away. And I'm like, okay.
I think they expect.
So, actually, I'll just can I jump in? I think that actually is the fault of emulation, but not in the way that you would think. Because, see, this game came with something that we don't even consider existing anymore. But I got a $3 discount because mine didn't come with it. And that is a thing called a manual.
I think about that a lot. I think about it.
But like this time, the reason it didn't necessarily communicate some of this, I mean, those basic controls particularly well, I suspect, is because that information is in the manual. And I'm not saying that to like be like condescending or anything, but like I don't take it as
condescension. But I think the order
something that we would have noticed if we were there.
Yeah, it just doesn't give you any, like, it just puts you there and it's like, all right, pick one. It's not even like, let's start here, Skywalker.
Not a good level.
No,
I like really weird.
I do get that thing about booklets because I think especially when we're talking about these old games, there's always going to be these little things that just don't resonate today. There was another one I was thinking about when we started talking, but yeah,
it's also in the tutorial level. Like, it does tell you what the buttons are. You have to fly through things to get what the buttons are. Most of it is just go follow these landmarks. Oh, look, it's Jabba's palace. Oh, look, it's a dugong. Go find the 3 others. Like, I don't want to go find dugongs. I want you to tell me how to shoot.
I didn't even find that one. I did like 5 of them. By the time I was on 5, I was like, okay, I'm gonna look up the controls in GameFAQs now. Thanks, GameFAQs. You're still around. Love you, baby. And then I'm gonna go do missions, I guess.
Well, I will say, speaking of this game not communicating, I didn't realize there was a tutorial level until I was at the Battle of Hoth. And I was like looking some stuff up because I think it defaults to the Death Star, or else I was just using somebody else to save.
It does. It starts there. If you hit back,
you have to go back to go to the tutorial level.
Yeah, why would we start at the tutorial level? That's silly, guys. This game is silly. It's fine.
But I mean, it didn't even. I kind of knew. I kind of figured out that I was going to need to watch some YouTube videos and read some stuff in the first Death Star, because it wasn't clear to me, how to get the ties to go in front of you. And then when even the first time I played through, and this was like my first real moment of frustration, was we got Vader out of the way on the Death Star, and then he's like, let's blow this thing and go home. And I'm like, okay. And I fired my proton torpedo and nothing. And then I did it like 8 more times, and then I crashed into the wall, and the Death Star blew up the planet.
Mine was more annoying. I got to the end and I went, all right, let's blow this thing up. And I went, let's do it. And then it went, hey, you're out of proton torpedoes, so the mission's over now. And I'm like, why did you not end minutes ago when I fired them all off at the start of the mission? What? Never.
There's a limited number of proton torpedoes.
Yeah, I got to the end. They went, "Oh, you don't have
only
any."
The bombs.
I think you only get like 6. Yeah. The Y-wings one, the Y-wings refill, but they should at least give you a couple more for that Death Star level.
Yeah, or just to tell you like, "Hey, don't use them all. You're gonna need one." And I'm sure that's so obvious to Star Wars fans. Like, I got there and I was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense."
It's a kind of game that expects you to know the movies, and they expect that's the client buying the game. Therefore, the clientele doesn't need to be explained what is happening.
But the thing is, if you compare this to X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, which came out, I believe, like several years before this, but was a PC game and emphasized more of the sort of sim of flying, you 100% knew how many proton torpedoes you had in X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. You also could shoot behind you with your countermeasures, either with flares or chaff. I know this because I had the X-Wing versus TIE Fighter demo as a kid and put about 100 hours into just the demo mission. Yeah, like I don't think it tells you when you run out of proton torpedoes in this. Also, the radar is not nearly as good as it is in X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, at least based on my memory. I need to revisit that, but
it took me a while to get used to it, but I did eventually get there, and I still was never like, oh, this is a great radar. I was like, it's a radar. Yep.
Yeah, I basically didn't use the radar for like almost the whole game. The only thing I used it for was when it points you in what direction you should be going.
Even then, it's not very communicated of what you need to hit all the time.
Well, let's talk about the good stuff.
The yellow things,
because a couple of us really liked this game.
I liked
a couple of us really liked this. I liked it. I
have rose tinted glasses for it too, since I played it when it came out. But I mean,
so here's the thing that you have to remember. Like, this game is short, but the thing is, this is not the kind of game that you're supposed to just play each mission once.
No, it wants you to get those medals. It wants you real bad.
Yeah, I was going to ask if any of you guys got any medals. I know we're just kind of just playing through it, but I only got 2, and I got 2 bronzes.
I got, I think, like 4 or 5 bronze. And
I got a few bronze, but that's...
It's because, and the only reason I never got anything higher than a bronze is because it kept being like, oh, how well did you use your targeting computer? And I'm like, motherfucker, no, I don't care.
I mean, if
you don't use your targeting computer, it gives you 100%.
Yeah, they want you to not use it. That's what gets you higher.
If you press the button, that counts as using it. Then is why. So if you actually
it's how long you hold it. Yeah, it's how long you have it up.
What button
at the end
on the GameCube controller? What button is the targeting computer supposed to be?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm using a Steam Deck, so it was my Y button too. But it just felt weird. I had to like move my hand to hold it and to shoot at the same time.
The GameCube one, they were all positioned around the A button.
Yeah,
so it was
I really,
it would have been okay.
That's something I really liked the game. This is the first time I've ever liked the GameCube controller. Because of that. Because like I was almost always, you're almost always hitting the A button for your lasers, and then the secondary buttons around the secondary face buttons all surrounding it. Like I'm like, oh, that's why people like this for Smash and stuff.
And then don't forget the analog triggers too. There were 2 different things because you had to click it in to actual to have the S foils move on the X-Wing, and same with with how much quickly you would slow down because it had the analog triggers and the clicking. Like, I love the GameCube controller. I thought it was.
I love the GameCube controller too.
But I'm a GameCube person.
The analog triggers. That's really smart for that. That's really cool too. I can see that.
But one thing I did
because
I got late in the game and realized that there are upgrades.
What?
Yeah.
You got to find them, but they don't tell you about them. Yeah, those.
No, hold on. What do you, like in a mission? I could just find an upgrade and then it stays for later missions.
the whole game. There are 5 or 6 upgrades. One is shields, laser cannons, cluster grenades, or something like that.
I don't know. Homing missiles too, right?
Yes.
You have to find as an upgrade. Yeah.
One is in an Imperial. That level that we were talking about earlier, where you take out the Star Destroyer. There's an Imperial shuttle that flies by at the beginning of the level and shoot before it docks, and it has an upgrade in it. How would you know? No idea. There.
Well, yeah, I mean, like Kendall was saying, you're supposed to play the levels over and over and over again.
Okay.
You get the medals, and then you can unlock, because there's bonus missions too. I don't know if you guys played any of those.
Yes, I've seen. I looked through those. Yeah. I didn't, but in other games, I can hold space if I missed it. If there's a spot where it tells me this, that's fine. And go, hey, that's me. That's my bad. I can hold it. But other games, it'll typically be like, hey, by the way, here in the menu, this mission has one secret upgrade. See if you can find it. If it's nowhere mentioned in the game,
it's not.
Probably
a different time.
It's probably in the manual.
Yeah.
I'm looking up a PDF of this manual.
We had less games to play then, and they were,
Yeah, I mean, this was a launch title, so you only had this game for 6 months.
I don't know. Nowadays, it's not getting that good. I mean,
but anyway, but my point is not that. Well, first of all, I will also say I did all the upgrades code for the last level, and even with all the upgrades, it's not like you're leveling up. Like it means that I guess like the only thing I noticed was that TIE interceptors died a little faster, but like
and you die a little slower.
I mean, maybe,
I would take that one. I don't know that it was enough. Again, like I wasn't dying. Like that wasn't the reason I was fit. If I got the shields upgrade because I thought it would upgrade Lando's shields.
That's what I'm saying.
It did
That's
not.
What I was going to say. They needed a passcode to make Lando not die. Is what they needed.
But
like, I mean, there's an infinite lives code and like other shit like that. But I looked through all of them because I was trying to beat that last level today. Like I did multiple other days, but I was like, can we make Lando invincible? Like just for the hell of it, just so I can.
That would have been nice. The problem with so since I play with save state,
can I make my point? Sorry, can I make my point? Yeah. So the thing is, I looked up and I found the shields, how to get the shields thing, and I went back and played the Death Star level after having played the first 9.5 mission. And you know what? When you're good at this game, it's fun. It feels really good. Like not if you're good at all video games. If you are bad at video games, but you specifically are good at this game, at least for me, it felt really good going in and just taking out those towers, tracking down, getting those ties in like one shot, being able to close my S foils when I was going through the Death Star trench. Like I felt like it was like Dark Souls. Like it was like when something clicks in a boss fight in Dark Souls. Like it was one of the best video game feelings that I've had in a long time.
All right, well, I'm glad I could bring that to you. I really am. I'm glad that I was able to get you to play a game that you probably not played otherwise.
You could say that Dark Souls is a rogue leader like they start.
That was a good joke.
So I did bring up this manual. I want to read a little segment here. On page 16, power-ups, tech upgrades. Let me skip ahead here. The upgrades are placed throughout the entire game and might well appear with little or no warning. Motherfucker, no! You son of a... I hate
one is inside... That Star Destroyer that you shoot down in the next level that you have to that you are fighting the troops at, you could have to fly inside the hole that you made. There's an upgrade inside there.
Also, fun fact, the next page I just saw, there's a special flight tips option or section. There's about 8 bullet points. The first one, although it goes without saying, remember to save at least 1 torpedo for the Death Star trench run. I hate this booklet. This booklet's making me as upset as this
Kendall's
game.
Right.
You have to read it. You have to read it first.
Fine.
But I mean, that's
fine,
what you would have done.
Next time I'm on this podcast, the first thing I'll do is I'll go to Internet Archive and I'll find the booklet and I'll read it front to back and I'll go, oh, I know everything now.
It's just a different time. And I mean, I think that's a good point to bring up, that the fact that we're talking about this in 2025, like if somebody was to pick this up, who's like a kid, they're gonna be like, what booklet? What the fuck are you talking about? We don't have those anymore. Like those aren't a thing. Like,
cheat codes. That was a thing. We talked about cheat codes. I was like, man, if I tell a kid about a cheat code, they're gonna go, what? And I'm gonna go, like, you have to pay for it, and I'm just gonna be sad.
Yeah, I mean, when I played Resident Evil 2 Remake and I wanted a limited ammo weapon because I was terrified of the game, I had to pay $3.
You have to pay for that?
Usually there's usually it's something you can unlock later. That's how they've been doing them.
You
lately.
can.
Oh, you can get it after if you do these special things.
But
if you want it at the start,
right? Yeah,
give us $3.
I would have paid for the double lives because I had to punching in that. I mean, look. The other day, yesterday, I called the pizza place so that I could order the pizza and probably paid a couple dollars more because I didn't get the deal online because I didn't want to punch in my order online. So, your time is worth money. And,
I would have paid a few extra dollars to have like a sensor for the little upgrades. I would have paid a few bucks for that. I'd also pay for horse armor. If there was horses in this game and they had armor, I would have paid for that.
Just wait till they make a Rise of Skywalker game, then you can have horse armor.
Yeah, I mean, if you knew that, but the thing is, if you just knew the upgrades were there, then you would know to look on YouTube for how to get them.
Yeah, so that's an element too. Is like there was still even back then game facts. Thankfully, if you had some sort of internet, which was at least by this point more and more common for people in the US.
You had a GameCube in 2001, you probably had internet.
Exactly.
Or you had access to a library.
Or you had Nintendo Power. That's where I read all my past.
There's an ad for Nintendo Power in this book.
I bet there is. It was all the thing. Yeah, no,
there's probably a Prima guide too.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, there was.
Actually, there might be a Nintendo Power one too. Actually, maybe not for this one.
The official guide from Nintendo Power Star Wars Rogue Squadron or Rogue Leader. Yeah,
there's one.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Did you guys? So since you were talking about the passwords, I guess you guys didn't do the extra ones where you can get like the Naboo Starfighter or the Cadillac or like any of those.
No, I always love these games when they do that though.
I put it in the whatever in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
The code for the Cadillac, but I guess I didn't say what it was. But that Cadillac is in like every Factor 5 Star Wars game, so it's fun to fly around in a car.
Also, what was the obsession with the Naboo Starfighter at this time? Just because of Phantom Menace?
It was
this is 2001, and in Rogue Squadron 1 on 64 had the Naboo Starfighter in it, but it came out before the prequels ever did, and that just blew my mind that there was a code in there for so long that nobody knew about, and then they told us about it later, and then it was there like 2 or 3 years after it had released, and I was like,
that's really pretty wild.
And also I played with the Naboo Starfighter because it's fun, it's fast, and its lasers are really quick. And
I guess it was a really good ship, wasn't it, in Star Wars?
I mean, I liked using it.
I've come around to the Naboo Starfighter when the moment when I saw freaking Din Djarin with R5D4 in the back, piloting that Naboo Starfighter, I really liked it.
Bringing it back.
Yes, it is a good ship.
Yeah, when when he got a Naboo Starfighter on Mandalorian, I forgot about that.
That was the moment that I was like, "That's cool."
Yeah, I guess they didn't make
hated the Razor
cooler.
Crest. Hated the Razor Crest.
I like the Razor Crest. I think, but
I was so happy when it blew up.
I thought it was pretty cool to see it in the game. And what was it? The one after this? What's the Rebel? What's the third one? Do you guys
Rebel
remember?
Strike?
I have it, but I can't. Rebel Strike, and that one.
I'm really curious about that game.
It's called now, but Slave One has like the cool audio bombs from Episode 2. Use those in there.
Oh,
the bombs that go like or whatever, and those are.
I'm really curious about the third one because, like I said, I feel like the second one, this one, they added a lot of stuff, and I think some of it worked and some of it didn't. And I'm curious if the third one refined a lot of it and just made it really good. That's what I'm kind of curious about.
Well, the third, I don't know. I would say that the third one's probably the worst one, but it's got a lot of fun, weird shit in it because they tried to make like on foot missions in there.
Ooh, that is my dream.
Play through like pretty much playing through scenes of the movie. Is basically what you're doing. But they have the arcade games on there too. You can play the original Star Wars Vector game and the Empire Strikes Back one and the Return of the Jedi one too. So.
Sounds pretty excited about this one.
So something about Star Wars games for me anyway is this era. Actually, I really don't like this era of games in general. Is the era of games that made me not want to ever play video games again.
That's
I think
fair.
that I basically think that
when he finishes, I'll say my point.
Yeah, I basically think that the games kept getting better and better through the end of the 16-bit era, and then with the jump to 3D. The early polygonal stuff is was like a novelty, but then like basically this generation was like the games that were coming out were like a bad version of what games are coming out like today. Like it's just been incremental improvements, and I've always really been really bad at video games. So, and I was always the kid that went over to the kid who owned the game's house. So, I get to play the game once a month. They get to play it every day. And I just got, frustrated by a lot of games from this era. But I love Star Wars. And this is where a lot of the Star Wars games are. And it really bugs me that there have been so few, relatively speaking, in the the Xbox 360 era, the PS4 era into now. I mean, I think we're with the Jedi games and a few other things. I think I like where we're at with modern Star Wars games, but there is like a big gap. And I'm curious if they had kept making games where you pilot an X-wing, every 3 years come out with a new. And if we were on Rogue Squadron 9. What would that game be like amazing? Or are there games that are just not Star Wars games that are, arcade flight shooter, whatever you would call this, that are the greatest game you've ever played in your life?
Mike, do you have a follow-up to that you want to mention?
I want to make a note about actually my favorite Star Wars game I've ever played. It's one from the arcade I don't know if they're still around, as they're like they've been around for a few years, but it's one where you're like in a little pod and it's pretty new. Okay. And yeah, I'm trying to figure out what it's called, because it's
what do you do in it? Do you remember?
Star Wars Battle Pod. That's what it's called. Okay. You like the full setup. Actually, you like open these like little like heavy duty plastic doors, and you sit in this like cockpit seat, and it's like I don't know what you'd call it, probably like 200-degree like screen view, and so it covers most of your thing. And it even had some of them have like air blasters too, but it literally takes you through these missions that are kind of like on the rails a little bit. I think they are, to my memory, but I don't know. That one, every time I play it in an arcade, I always enjoy it, and I always get like a little bit farther, because it only has a handful of missions being an arcade game. It has like 10, I think, but like some of them are like alternate universe stuff that gets really dark. Like one of them is like you're Darth Vader and you barely survive a Death Star explosion and you chase down and kill the Millennium Falcon, and you hear like them scream, and I'm like, damn, this is epic and brutal. But I don't know, flight sims for me, there's some I really like, and there's some I think I just need them really dumbed down. Like the new Star Wars one, I forget what that one's called, but that one I liked. I thought it was neat, but I couldn't get too into it.
Oh, it was Squadrons, right? Yeah, I played that on PS4 and had fun with it.
Okay, I was arguing with somebody without either of us looking anything up. Does that have a single player?
Squadrons?
Yeah. I never played it. I never played it multiplayer. I played it.
Okay. Does it have is it like a proper story campaign, or
is
it just...
because you got to pick
you play two different characters from two different sides. It's actually really cool. Like I like,
and you got to like pick one of 3 different characters for each side, I think, or something. That was really cool, because it let you like some.
I thought it was just one like on each side, but
I thought it was. I think it was an aesthetic choice. Like they all had the same voice, but you got to pick like I thought it was one of 3 like representations of that characer. And I was like,
maybe I should play it then.
I played through it in the pandemic, but I don't know if there was multiplayer on it. Like I did it all single player for the story.
It did have a pretty hefty multiplayer scene. I don't think it ever took off, but the people who liked it liked it a lot.
It was definitely released exclusively multiplayer.
Squadron? Yeah. I don't know. I bought it later when it was on sale. So
yeah, because that's why I didn't buy it, because it was released.
Are you thinking about Battlefront? Because those didn't have single player.
It was also that, but I mean, also that is also true with Battlefront. But it was just like because I was following it through the beta, and then when I found out it wasn't going to have a single player, then I kind of stopped paying attention. But I assumed that eventually it would have a single player. I didn't know if it did or not.
To my earlier point, what I was going to say, like. I do think games were hard during this era. Like as a game, I mean, I've been a longtime gamer, but I struggled with a lot of PS2, GameCube games where I couldn't beat them at the time, and like I wasn't able to really play them until I went back with save states, because like the 360 era, in my opinion, is when games start getting a lot of easier difficulties and they help you finish them. I mean, you have your Dark Souls and stuff that comes out during that era, but I feel like gaming was made to be beaten where this stuff was still a little more challenging. And this game is kind of arcadey, so that fits the theme too.
Right. It's kind of the last generation where games tried to be use difficulty to artificially make them longer.
I mean, this game is only 10 missions, except for the bonus mission, and I kind of mentioned earlier, but this game was made in 9 months, which is ridiculous. I mean, the models were already done, so they did have that. The ship models were done because while they were trying to... There's actually a documentary about this game on a 7-minute one on YouTube that I watched before this. but they got the test stuff for the GameCube, and they already before they got all that, they were having guys work on the models, and he made the X-Wing models and all the ships. So once they got all the test kit, then they could start putting the game together. But they had 9 months is still a ridiculous amount of time to make a game. That's one reason why this game is shorter too.
Did they mention in the documentary? Did they mention how there was supposed to be a Rogue Squadron collection release for Wii that didn't happen?
They didn't mention it in that, but there were other videos I watched.
Because there's actual footage of it that IGN posted online that I've seen.
Oh, they made it.
It existed. Like they were going to make a collection for Wii, and
it was finished.
I don't know what happened. Yeah, because
it just never got released for some reason. But from what I found out while looking online, it was created and it was finished. So it's a real thing that exists. They just never released it.
Yeah, it was because of Lair, right? I mean, that was kind of the nail in the coffin for Factor 5. I thought with Lair on PS3, that was a big strikeout for them, unfortunately.
That's because they had to use a stupid controller.
Yeah,
well, they've been.
It seemed like it kind of took them. Well, if it wasn't the death of them, it didn't hurt. It didn't help.
They've been slowly but surely re-releasing LucasArts titles. I mean, they re-released Jedi Power Battles, and they re-released Star Wars Demolitions.
And that game's terrible, and they released it anyway.
I've never heard of Lair, and these images are terrifying me.
The game looks really cool. I have it, actually. I've only played it once. I like dragons. I need to put that in there. I love dragons, so therefore...
Yeah, I don't remember if I ever played it, because I always wanted to play it because of my love for Factor 5, but I know eventually they patched it to where you could play with a stick instead of motion controls, but it was a shame because I don't know, I thought it looked really cool at the time.
It's just
that it came out.
6-axis was not a good idea, and the fact that they forced them to make it like that was an issue. So
I don't know what those things are, but I don't like them.
So back to this game. So one thing that I use to sort of that I always like look forward to and like think about and analyze in these early polygonal Star Wars games is the Battle of Hoth and how they handle the harpoons and tow cables. And I will say this game is the first time ever that I've had fun using my harpoons and tow cables.
This is the first time I've ever not hated it, but I also felt, I don't know, honestly, like it's better than other ones by a mile, but I was also kind of bored. I was just like, okay, I did it, and it's done.
I mean, you could be worse at video games, I think, is what I'm getting.
The fact that you can't skip those cutscenes where they fall over, that drove me nuts. I was like, okay, I've seen it.
But you got to see it every time. I mean, that was kind of their own masturbatory thing. It's like,
I was kind of getting that vibe.
I thought the whole point of it was to be like, oh, it looks as good as the movie, or
my only complaint about
it's falling in water.
My only complaint about the cutscene, about those little 4-second cutscenes, was that there were a lot of missions where I was right up against the buzzer of them blowing up the transport, and like I would get through the cutscene, and then immediately after the cutscene, something would explode, and it would say you failed the mission.
Yeah.
So that was a little frustrating, but yeah, like I actually for the first time ever, because like in the N64 one, you just have to kind of like hold the stick in the exact right spot and hold like 8 buttons down, and then you go around the 3 times and hope that you don't screw it up. I don't remember how you do it in Shadows of the Empire, but I'm sure that it doesn't feel good because that game's kind of rough at time.
Shadows was like was basically the birthplace of this, where everybody were like, oh no, we like the space stuff. Let's make a whole game for that. But yeah, it was really weird. Yeah, because you had to. I don't know. It took me a long time to figure out how to do it, and I was like doing the rope. Like the Super Star Wars games are like my favorite Star Wars games, so I did that. I wrote the AT-ATs on Super Nintendo, and I thought that was cool, but it's dumb. I mean, yeah, this is the best way to do it, or it feels the best.
This is it is a good version.
It slows down. It's forgiving. You do it the 3 times. Honestly, I really liked the cutscene because that was the most stressful thing that I've done in the last 6 months was take those ATs down. I don't have a very stressful life.
It's tense. Like I was.
That sounds really nice. God, I wish that was me.
I had my shoulders. I was like, but no, I really love doing it with the water too. Like that one level left you down.
That was cool, but difficult, but cool.
But I like that, how they're half in the water and you're like just above the water circle.
And I liked that they brought it back because again, like a lot of this game was about like sort of teaching myself a new vocabulary or or dusting off an old vocabulary of this type of game. And so I really appreciated that there was this hard thing that I figured out how to do, and then that I saw it again later in the game. Yeah, that level was a little frustrating because I kind of felt that was the first time that I was like, there are 100 of these ATPTs.
The ATPTs, yeah,
like
those were annoying.
I don't even.
There's like 8 dudes.
Yeah, they're little tiny guys.
I know, but they're not in the. Well, they're not in the movies, obviously. But I was like, this is
they
something
were probably
different
in some comic or book or whatever.
They're probably in that. I think they were. They were from this
transport.
I mean, what am I talking about? I'm a big Star Wars nerd, and I know there's lots of
all-terrain
transport.
The smaller ones. They only get one. They only get one person.
So what was everybody's favorite level?
I don't think I had. Okay, I did have one. The raid on Bespin, because for some stupid reason in my life, and I got to be one of the only people, I really, really like the cloud car design.
Oh yeah,
did you have toys?
I actually never got one though.
Oh, I had a toy of it when I was a kid because I don't know what it is about the cloud car, but in that level you can switch out your A-wing. I do not like A-wings, by the way, ever. And you can get a cloud car, and then you can fly around with the cloud car for a little bit.
Yeah, and they can bomb, right? Can't the cloud cars drop bombs or no? I never
remember.
Or no, I did. I switched to it.
When I got to it, I had already taken out most things. I was just trying to finish up the last part of the level because I found it late.
Fun thing about that, actually, like a strategy, if you switch cars, like your shields will go all the way back up. So if you're about
that's the reason why I did. I was dying.
Cars and then you're good to go.
Wait, what's
that level? That level, I thought that you had to take out each individual gun on those like hot air balloon looking things.
Oh, instead of
you didn't just shoot
not until I watched YouTube. Once I did that, fair. I had it, after an hour and a half of trying to take out each individual gun. And I did almost get to the part with, I think I didn't. I got to the third platform, just taking out each individual gun. But then I ran out of time. I mean, the good thing is if you're taking out the guns, then the fewer guns they are, the less they're shooting at it. So if there was like one gun left on the platform, and I think that one actually was like a different timer as you got to each zone. Like, so if I cleared out the first zone, then it wasn't like even if I took 20 minutes on the first zone, like I go to the second zone and it wouldn't already be exploded. But yeah, I totally did not realize that they had the little shield generator things that you could just blow them up. And once I did that level was easy. But that was I liked that level.
It was fun to me. I really liked actually the Imperial Academy heist. This is probably, I think, out of all the Star Wars sort of ship games, with where I like the Y-Wing a lot. I really liked how they did the Y-Wing. And I just thought that one was really fun with a lot of stuff. Like, I don't know, I like the cannon flying, like going through little areas, and then just getting to bomb the hell out of things in this game is for some reason really satisfying. Like the water level, I would just, when I switched to the Y-Wing and just blowing up all those little AT whatever, I was like, yeah, this feels real good. And then you get to hop in the other ship. And as I'm watching this YouTube video, apparently it has a back turret, which I don't remember at all, but apparently it does.
I was going to ask, on the emulated version, could you play both versions? Because there's a day and a night version of this level that are completely different.
I only remember like the foggy night one. I didn't know.
How do you change it?
The other one?
You have to change the clock on your GameCube.
Usually the emulators.
If you played in the daytime, it's the day one, and if you played at night, it's the night one. Which I thought was really cool.
That is cool.
Because the day is the daytime the Y-Wing and the nighttime the Snowspeeder. Okay, that explains it. I was going to ask about that because the first two times the first like 2 or 3 times that I failed, I was in a Y-Wing, and then they switched me to a Snowspeeder. I assumed it was like you get like 2 chances with the Y-Wing, and then they're like, you're not good enough to use a Y-Wing. You have to use a Snowspeeder.
I thought the Y-Wing was easier actually than the Snowspeeder because you can disable the sensors with the Y-Wing.
Maybe it was, but I assumed otherwise. Also, the Snowspeeder at night, I kept getting lost. I accidentally a couple times went the secret way where you steal a TIE fighter.
Oh yeah,
did you guys see that?
I saw the TIE fighter. I shot the TIE fighter and not the pilot.
Oh yeah, you're supposed to shoot the pilot. Yeah, because
I just blew up his ride instead.
I was getting frustrated with the night one, so I actually switched. I mean, I was playing it on my Wii, but I switched the time so I could play the day version because it's easier. So I was like, fuck this.
So that was also my favorite level for two reasons. One, because it was the whole thing that I'm talking about in a nutshell. Where like it went from being the most frustrating moment of the entire game because I was like, I'm scraping against the ground and you're telling me that I need to fly lower. And then I'm failing after 10 seconds. And then when I figured out the path that it wanted me to take, I felt like I was like, oh, okay, actually, it's not that I needed to find the where I could go lower and figure out exactly. Could you shoot him as the snowspeeder?
Yes, you have to charge up your ion cannon, but that's what I was the Y-wing. I wasn't a snowspeeder for that level.
You can't do that with the snowspeed. The snowspeeder, you actually have to just like keep a certain distance away from them.
Yeah.
Was this another day-night level?
We're talking about the same level.
Same one.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're right. Okay, never mind. Now I forgot. You see, I was confused because I forgot. Yeah.
There's a day and a night version in one level. So
but the other thing,
levels are multiple parts.
The other thing that I loved about this level is, as a Star Wars fan, and we were arguing over the canonicity of the story that you and I were remembering different things.
Welcome to Star Wars.
But I love when a supplemental piece, like whether it be a novel or a comic or a video game, answers a question that no one asked. So like when you talk about well, how does the Millennium Falcon make the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs when the parsecs is a measurement of distance? And then they explain in the Jedi Academy trilogy that it's actually because you have to go really fast in order to get close to the Maw and things. And, we sort of saw that in Solo, but like they have like these explanations of, or explanations of backstories and things. So like, how did the Rebels get the shuttle Tidarium? Is a really cool, like that was
a shuttle from Endor?
Yeah.
Wow. I did not put that together. You just made this cooler. Thank you.
Well, I mean,
now I will say,
it's still following the trilogy story.
Yeah. I will say if that game was made today, every mission would be something like that, and that would have been the final. Like you wouldn't, because you wouldn't be following the trilogy directly. You would be some minor character. You would be Schmedge and Schmillies, and you would be, some
Schmedge Kraken.
Yeah,
maybe exactly. It would be you'd be an RPG game, but you like look-alikes of the same character, but you're following behind them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that all tracks. Yeah,
and that's a game. Lord of the Rings Third Age. That's what it is.
I really want to play it. Anyway,
but like you would be. Yeah. I think that's probably how. But like that to me is like that little story beat in that mission is like. It's just like the coolest thing. And if you could, I kind of wish the whole game was like that, because like instead, as opposed to it being basically you have like the, Battle of Yavin, Battle of Hoth, Battle of Endor, you have like a couple of weird, like in between like things, but both of the two missions that we've talked about as our favorite. Also, I think it helps that that's like kind of late enough in the game that how you know the vocabulary, the controls, but not the very end game where they just ratcheted up the difficulty way too much. But it kind of makes sense that you're stealing the Tidarium, and then you need to go to the gas station to fuel up the fleet. I think that's it's not that obviously it's not the absolute best. It's not it's not a freaking Last of Us, but it is those little story beats. I like that, and I like that. I like to feel that I was the one that helped get the shuttle, like that. I don't know.
I do
for
too.
Some reason that feels even better than blowing up the Death Star.
Like that this game had missions.
Dark Forces where you get to find the Death Star plan.
Right, exactly. I love that too. I love that the first level of Dark Forces is you finding the Death Star plans.
I always loved that too when I was a young. Yeah, no, it's cool to know the parts of it before it was like everywhere and everything. Where it's like it's like, let's show the whole card game of Lando and Han. It's like, no, we don't.
Yeah, I like that movie, but I could have done without it. Yeah, I do like that movie though. That movie did not deserve the hate it gets. But that's neither here nor there.
It was long, and it was a movie.
Great movie.
One thing about this game and the third one, which we'll talk about probably next year, is that like I'm going to finish this trilogy finally next year. But the way that they even said it in the documentaries I was watching, they're like 2 and 3 are essentially the whole Star Wars trilogy for them and all the major battles. Because like we don't get repeat. Like in this game, you get the battle. You fucking repeat again of the Battle of Hoth, which I know Hoth is a big deal, but I'm sick and tired of Hoth. I've done it enough times.
As much as Tatooine. I mean, we should have some shows take place there. I mean, everything's in Tatooine. It's like, come on, we get it.
I love the battle. I feel like every Star Wars game should have a Battle of Hoth, just so you can like objectively compare them.
I mean, it's close. They do.
You could do a whole podcast on that. I mean, you could do a whole podcast on the different battles of Hoth and all the games.
Yeah,
you did your Patreon, didn't you?
I was thinking about
a Hoth off.
I was thinking about that playing this game. It's like, doing a whole podcast about like doing like the Death Star blow. Like, how many times did you blow up Death Star 1 in different games, or Death Star 2? Because I just kept thinking about Super Return of the Jedi and how much easier it was to blow up the Death Star.
That game is still hard though.
I can beat all of them in like an hour each, but I played them religiously in high school.
Okay, I in high school I went and played the ROMs with save states, and I remember I didn't even finish the second one because I fucked up somehow and didn't have force powers. I think when I needed them.
I tried. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. If you use passcodes, you'll have all the force powers when you.
I didn't use passcodes. I was trying to play
the whole way through, and you miss them, you won't have them.
Yeah, and then I was done. Never touched it since.
I can't even beat like the second level of Super Star Wars.
Games are hard.
So speaking of hard, so Death Star 2, like, man, that's where I got real frustrated because it's like there's too many fail states in those final couple levels.
Yeah, it's like, do you hate escort missions? Well, what about like if we make them really stupid?
Yeah, I mean, look, when he says heading for the medical frigate, that is the card heading for the medical frigate is in 99% of all Star Wars card decks. So that is a very important line, believe it or not. But that medical frigate blowing up does not mean that they lose the Battle of Endor. Like, I'm pretty sure that medical frigate blows up in the movie. I'm not 100%, but I would assume it does. A lot of ships blow up.
Well, they have to have some sort of goal, I guess, or I mean, maybe I would have preferred that you didn't have to protect as much stuff in this game.
There were just too many, and then there's like 1,000 TIE bombers. Like that was real frustrating.
Yeah, they're annoying.
You're talking about the one before Strike at the Core, which actually
the Battle of Endor.
I actually like that level, but it was it was before I had played Strike at the Core. I mean, I was like, this is kind of hard, but it's fun. I don't know. I played it while I was editing too, so I didn't have to hear everybody yell at me. Like I said, that's
better when you can't hear them because you'll hear a lot of lines that you already know, and they're not as cool when.
Where are you?
It's not as cool when bad things are happening in your game.
Yeah, I would say the where are you? It's like I'm literally flying directly in front of your bridge.
Exactly.
But I can't, if you could tell me where the TIE bombers were.
It's like I wish I could shoot you through the window so you stop yelling at me.
Which I did do. I did eventually get through that. But yeah, then the final level, then the Strike of the Core level, first of all, like the TIE interceptors kept just ramming into me and causing me to crash into I wasn't getting shot at, I was getting rammed by the TIE interceptors.
Yeah,
and so like
really bad.
So then eventually I would that's where the extra lives actually kind of help. Although if you die too much, then you end up getting sent too far back and you can't catch up. And then like Milk was saying about the first Death Star, once you get into the going towards the core and the TIEs get past you, if it seemed actually kind of forgiving, like where like sometimes the TIEs would just crash and I wasn't but I would crash into a wall and it would start me back like almost at the beginning of the tube.
Yeah, I thought it was the beginning every time because Lando said the same thing whenever.
Yeah, so died. Like Lando kept going, so Lando was way ahead.
Lando, yeah.
So like if while I was reloading, a TIE got past me, then like I would get like pretty far into it, like almost to the final reactor, and then it would cut to the Millennium Falcon with no background. Like
just
like
blowing.
No, like just completely like with no assets around it, getting shot by a TIE and exploding. Like after I had not seen a TIE for a good 45 seconds. And then I'd have to start all the way back at the beginning. That's where save states probably would have helped.
Oh yeah.
And then the one time I did blow up the Death Star, blow up the Death Star, then you have to leave the Death Star. Yeah, and it's like, why would you make the last thing in the game leaving the Death Star? Why wouldn't you blow up the Death Star and then give me a cutscene of everybody leaving? Like, the last thing you should do from like a storytelling climaxy thing, the last, like, the feel good moment should be shooting that, taking out that generator so that Lando can blow up the Death Star. But no.
Trey, you can answer this question. In the
also, when you're exiting the Death Star, no matter how many lives you have, if you don't make it out, it's automatically game over, which fucking
that is shitty.
Because that happened to me today multiple times. I got all the way in there without losing a single fucking life, and then if the fire catches up to you or you don't make it out or whatever, it's done. It doesn't matter how many lives you have, it's automatically game over. So that makes it extra.
And it said Wedge and Lando were overtaken by the fire. I happen to know that Lando was way ahead of me.
Also, you can pass him, apparently. Well, I mean, I watched a YouTube video that said you can go past Lando, and it doesn't even matter whether you follow him or not, which I was trying to do, but his stupid fucking large ship, I couldn't get around it, and that's how I ended up in the fire. But whatever.
In the Super Return of the Jedi game, does it make you run out of there too?
Yep, it does. And I always loved it for that, because you got to get out. I mean, it's not that one. It's just like a whole bunch of, kind of like Mode 7 stuff and you can't really tell like whether you're hitting the walls or not. So it's way worse than this one. But you just gotta hold on the gas and just just tilt with the L and R and hope you're tilted the right way and stay away from the fire. And look out for the walls that appear out of nowhere.
Were really nice in that last part, because like I crashed I got caught in the fire a couple times, and I'm like, oh, I'll just reload and try this again.
Yeah, that was when I was like, oh man, I wish I had a save state, because then I could just keep doing the exit part until I got.
I did it, and then I was just like, I think I tried it a couple times after that, because like I didn't want to. Sometimes you play these games and you get to the almost ending, and it's like, oh, I got so close, and then you go back to the beginning, and you get to that point every single time because you've learned how to play the game. But I was just like. But I didn't get. I played for another hour after that of not getting to it, and
game's hard.
It's like Guitar Hero. You got to keep practicing until you make.
Yeah. I mean,
Guitar Hero is better.
And I can't honestly. I can't fault. Rewarding. I can't fault the difficulty. I just think that like from a storytelling standpoint, the last thing you do should be to blow it up, and then or if you want it to be. You have to fly out, then it should have been like the kind of thing where it's like, you're not going to screw this up.
Like Dead Space 2. That's the funniest thing. You've been talking about this, and my brain was like, oh, what's a game where that happened? It's really familiar, because I didn't do this last mission. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's fucking Dead Space 2. And it's such a weird reference, but it's like, yeah, you do the end. And because it's such a weird scene. I think Dead Space 2 is kind of a weird game to my memory. But in the end, you like do that, you beat the thing, and then it's like, oh, I have no evac, and I'm so sad. And the credits, I think, start to roll, or it seems like that's about to happen. And then you get like a codex call, and you're like, oh, hey, I'm coming here to pick you up last minute. We gotta go. And then it's very much like you said, you like have to jetpack yourself out and catch up with the ship. And I just watched the cutscenes you're talking. It's like, oh yeah, it's really easy, and it's really hard to fuck up. And you get this cool little, basically, it's more or less just a scene, but you have like the slight input to like just get out.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah,
it's right. Like a victory lap. Yeah.
Yeah, a victory lap. That's a good way of putting it.
It's a 360 generation, not this generation. That's the big
Hey,
difference.
we're learning. We were getting there, but
right, if it was a 360 game, it'd be a quick time event.
Yep.
I'm okay with that. I don't mind quick time events.
Did they ever have a quick time Death Star escape thing? I fucking hope not. But
I wouldn't be surprised if there is.
Well, no, that's because that's the thing is there's basically the Force Unleashed and the Force Unleashed 2 from that generation, and there's almost no other Star Wars games there. I think that maybe Jedi Academy came out for it.
Wants to have a word with you.
There's probably some Clone Wars stuff, but like
there's one.
But like there really hasn't been anywhere near as many of these Star Wars titles in that generation
like or this time.
Not really based around the original trilogy as much.
Star Wars Connect wants to have a word with you with their Lando dance music.
Even that was at the end. Even that was at the end of the generation of the console generation.
I'm flying solo. I'm flying solo.
There's a ukulele cover of that song of me playing that song on YouTube. Great song. It's a great song.
You know, maybe this
So
game isn't as bad as I feel like it
Covenant is gone. Moving on.
At least it doesn't have Lando dancing or Han and me singing I'm flying solo. So, you know, ups and downs at the end of the day.
That one place is the best one, by the way. I think we ever got to me.
Okay, so the best one. So those two must be the best two levels then.
Well, because I feel the same way as Mike. I mean, I'm just I've always loved Cloud City and anything that took place in it. I always thought was great. So
that's so wild. I think Cloud City is like one of my least favorite environments, like just aesthetically.
It's kind of stupid. Like I mean, because I've thought about living there probably. Great, you got to live in those enclosed spaces like above, and the actual planet is tiny, right? Isn't it? It's mostly
it's a gas planet,
gas or whatever. Yeah.
So I don't think
it's giant.
It's like sunset all the time. It's pretty. I don't know. I always thought it looked pretty.
But the other thing I really like about that level is finding the power core things where you're going in the trenches. I felt that balanced the. It was not that much harder than the Death Star trench in the first level, but it made me feel like I was good at video games because I was actually, it made me feel like I was doing a thing, and then it was very clear once I did watch a YouTube video to know exactly where all the cores were, but
because they lied to you and didn't follow what we know.
I used the target, but I mean.
Or maybe I used the targeting. Actually, I think I used the targeting computer. Now that I'm thinking, because I watched a YouTube video, but I only watched it to the point where he found the first core, and then I think I used the targeting computer to find the other ones. But regardless, I liked maneuvering through those trenches a lot.
Yeah,
the scanner also pointed you in the direction to go. That one actually, the scanner was helpful too.
Oh yeah, on the map it kind of sort of points you there.
Sometimes it did.
The game worked.
It sometimes wanted to be useful.
It's like that level, all the mechanics kind of worked. So that's, and the aesthetic was cool and there was a storytelling thing and, so there's, that's where I wish that they had kept making one of these games every 3 years for the last 20 years. And then we would be playing, the most polished version. Like it may not be like everybody's favorite version, but it would be like the, I don't know, freaking Assassin's Creed 9 or whatever.
There is a Squadron game that came out a couple years ago that's supposed to be good.
Yeah, we talked about that while you were.
While I stepped away.
When you Squadrons.
Which I need to try. But even that is that's the first one of these that they had made in many years. I don't know if there's is Ace Combat this? Is there a series that comes out with a game every 3 years that is a fly a ship and fight and fight thing?
Yeah, but from what I hear, it just gets more buck wild with the plots, especially. I don't know much more about it besides that.
You're not wrong. I don't know much about it, but I know that.
I also I don't care about the plot. Is a video game's a video game, but I don't know if there's because I always talk about how I want to get back into real-time strategy games because I played Age of Empires and it's behind the scenes there have been a billion real-time strategy games made in the last 20 years that I don't know anything about. I didn't know if there were. I imagine that there are, arcade flight sim shootery things. Exactly what I'm looking for. In the comments, if you're a fan, comment, and then Mike will tell me.
I mean,
in the Discord.
For all of the Star Fox fans and those sort of games, I mean, this kind of fills that desire for it or scratches that itch, and that's why I like these type of games. And I wish there were more of them. It's Star Fox has been dead for years, but kind of sort of an on rails shooter, but also kind of an open map, like a lot of these are. I don't know, I miss games like this. I mean, they don't have to be full price, but I would enjoy one if they. And if they release,
genre doesn't exist.
If they release a Factor 5 collection for Switch, I would buy it 100%.
I mean, they should have released a collection of these three.
Hopefully, it has a check.
I don't have faith about Star Wars and collections these days. I'm saying.
I mean, they released a lot of them. There's a lot of Star Wars games that got re-released on the Switch and other systems. This game,
mostly, but most of them. Except for
I bought a bunch of them for my son actually. But this game is locked to GameCube still, and I think that as much as I do have issues with this game, that's still a traversity that this game is locked to the GameCube. After all, come on now.
Did you guys, PC? Did you guys like switching, being able to switch vehicles and all that stuff, mid mission?
Minus the cutscene aspect, yes. I thought it was a cool thing to give that choice in those moments.
That's a good thing. I really like.
Didn't see your little guy running.
I still think of the way the guys run in the game. It looks so funny in this one.
Because I feel like there's another version of this game where you have to slow down and perfectly land directly in the docking bay. And then you get out and go. Like, I liked that it was I just had to fly into an icon. Like, they should have, honestly, that mechanic could have been how they ended the game. Like, you fly into an icon at the end of a mission, and then that triggers the cutscene. And so then you could blow up the star and then fly into an icon, and then you would cutscene your way out of the Death Star.
Cool.
In the in the asteroid field one, that's how you like land on the Star Destroyer. You just like fly into an icon, and then you're just stuck there, and then that's the end of the level. It's pretty cool. You know, because it does the part where you you guys have seen these movies many times. You know,
many.
There's movies.
Times. I did want to say
I'm so close to that. It's not funny. It's like, wait, huh?
I've only read the novels.
I've only watched. I've only read the Tales of ones because those are the only ones that are real for me.
All right, should we go to questions, comments, or memories?
Hold on, I had one more thing I wanted to say.
Sure, please.
I just looked through your episodes, and I'm pretty sure you haven't covered this yet, but it's the one that shit is forgotten, but nobody really remembers it. But Battle for Naboo on 64 was also Factor 5. Did you guys ever play that game? That game was actually really good, and that's the first time that they did the vehicle change in those games. Was in that one before this. I forgot about it, but after playing this, it made me kind of want to do it. But no, I have not covered it yet. I only have played it. It's a good game. Like it obviously got it. It was. I think it was one of the best of the episode 1 games that there. I mean, I would say
only 4.5 hours. Okay.
Yeah, it looks pretty short.
I mean, it's like these ones, except you do stuff within.
And you play as that ship you guys were talking about.
But is it easier? That's the key part.
I don't know. I mean, I beat it, but I beat this one too. I really wish I had my. I wish I still had my my memory card because it got corrupted, so everything disappeared. Like all my old saves and all that, like are gone. But I would love to see how many medals I actually got for this because I played the shit out of this game. Like I played it over and over again. I got all the extra levels. I did all the codes to unlock the extra vehicles and whatnot, and I loved it. Like it's like I said, it was this and Smash Brothers and Tony Hawk 3, and it was great for me, and I loved I loved the game so much because it looked so pretty, and for all of us who had played 64 for so long, it really was a technical achievement. Like just to see how smooth it is and how quickly it loads, and just like the FMVs everywhere because we got that once and like Resident Evil 2 on 64. Like it was a foreign land for us 64 players. So
I mean, visually, it's still. I think visually, it's
stunning.
It's not. Yeah, it's not that bad.
It looks gorgeous. Yeah, I played it on 480p on Wii. I don't think it looks so much different, but
I played it on a CRT TV.
Yeah, you played it the better way.
I am impressed that you did go through all that trouble to play this game. I do appreciate that, Kendall. So
I mean,
that's the way to play it.
I will definitely be doing that. If I'm part of the third one, I have my GameCube. I will hunt down whenever I need to play it and do it that way because it was not enjoyable to do emulation.
You will be on the third one, but that one I don't think is as cheap. That one I'm not sure how cheap that game is.
Rebel Strike was didn't really do so well. Like I said, it had a lot of ideas, but it's the on-foot missions are even at the time I didn't think they worked well. Like even when it came out.
$15-20. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I never know old games because it just
that market's gone down. Thankfully, like there's obviously still the collecting stuff that's happening, but it's definitely
GameCube games especially are like are normally like kind of pretty high price, especially.
Yeah, they even were back then too. Like there wasn't the Nintendo tax even back then. I remember before I knew that was a thing. And be like, oh, these GameCube games are more expensive than the PS2 version. Let's buy, or the Xbox version is the cheapest. I'll just buy that on my hard drive. So.
Well, I mean, the ones that released at the same time were the same price. I guess it depends on where you get them at.
I bought everything later, like years later.
Yeah, they did.
So there would be a difference.
For other systems, yeah.
Oh, I used to live in like an EB Games near my house. Like I went there 2 to 3 times a week and just browsed and looked at prices. And I would go on the website all the time at school. Like I love video game collecting.
I bought a shit ton of used GameCube games for like $10 because nobody cared, and now they're worth a lot. So
it was during that era.
I'm just saying, Fire Emblem.
I'm just glad we're slowly sliding back. Oh, Star Wars Clone Wars. Anyway,
everything about Attack of the Clones. That's how I feel about that.
That game's living infamy in my heart. That's all I'll say.
How about the movie? Ugh. No, I never played the game.
I'm glad we have the similar experience, different thing.
I mean, you're talking about the cartoon, right?
No, that one makes me happy.
Cartoon's good. Both of them are good. Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones.
Right.
But that movie, Sand is rough, but you're soft. Okay. Should we go on to questions?
I mean, he's right. Sand does suck.
Sand
is right.
Rough,
You ever worked in sand?
and it gets everywhere.
When you need a whole 8-season cartoon show to fix that character arc, that's not a great movie, man. I want to tell you.
I'm not saying it's not a great movie. I'm saying that when he said that line and I was 14 years old, I felt seen because I have always hated sand.
Me too. That's what I've been telling people. I did it before Anakin said it. Did it before it was cool.
I just love all the memes.
If you work with equipment at all, sand will destroy everything you have. So
because I always hated. That's why I always hated Orange Blossom Special by Johnny Cash, because he was talking about getting sand in his shoes like it was a good thing. I don't want to get sand in my shoes.
But I live in the Midwest. Like I don't have ocean here, but I stay away from sand. I do not go near sand because I hate sand too. But I kill a bunch of sand people.
And I don't bring it up to a girl and be like, hey, you're not like this thing I hate.
He killed the sand people because he didn't like sand.
Only talked to
I know.
one lady.
I have made the joke to my wife though before because she's a Star Wars fan just like me, and I have made the sand joke to her before, and
that's
she told me to fuck off.
Though. I don't walk up to my SOs and be like, you know what I hate? I don't know, scratchy fabrics. You're not like scratchy fabrics. You're the opposite of scratchy. Like what? What are we doing? Anyway.
I mean, the poor kid probably never talked to a lady before.
Exactly.
He didn't have a whole lot of experience.
It does make sense.
Children
are rigid about everything. The Jedi.
Makes sense.
Compare it to sand
in that aspect. My issue with those movies is how quickly she marries him when she shouldn't. But I guess she was also didn't really have any experience with people because she was.
That's supposed to be. Yeah, that's supposed to be part of it. I mean,
I know, but
remember when he says I'm more concerned about her doing something than him.
Better,
yeah.
And that's why we have the show now. It just adds in a lot of filler. It makes you be like, it was fast, but like, kind of makes sense.
Great, but I love that show. I need to cover that show on this podcast, season by season.
I need to watch that show.
You did. I thought
I did the movie.
Stuff.
I did the old. I have not done the Disney Star Wars Clone Wars. I did the movie, and I did the 2D Tarkovsky show. But I did not do the seasons. I want to at some point do that in Rebels, but like a couple seasons at a time in an episode. But I have not bothered to lock that down yet. So because that's it.
I love that you called it Disney Star Wars Clone Wars when the first thing Disney did when they bought Star Wars was cancel that show.
They brought it back though. They realized their folly. I mean, they brought it back for seasons, right?
I've done 3 seasons of Bad Batch. I've done the Tales shows, but no, I haven't done Clone Wars. I want to, but yeah,
it was Bad Batch. I mean, that's still like it's like Clone Wars sequel for.
It is, yeah. It's the continuation of Clone Wars and into the.
Filoni's not involved, but
I mean the characters.
It's
all kind of the same.
Not as directly as he was involved with.
Okay, that's because he's doing all the live action stuff.
I think it sort of shows, but that's okay. But I liked it too. Bad Batch was good. I think Bad Batch was. I'm glad that it lasted as long as it did. I think that
Omega. I'm glad it had an ending.
Was pretty great. Yeah, I'm glad it had an ending. Exactly. I like when things have endings.
Same.
So speaking of things having endings, let's go on to comments and that thing.
All right, I was about to do that too. From the I watched the entire Overload Super Replay group, I got one comment from Randolph Sparks. One of the best Star Wars games. Rest in peace, Factor 5.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
From the official Laser Time community. From Alan Lawrence Matthews, Game Rules, remaster it now. From John Morin, the best game in the series, still very fun and very playable today, and still looks great. It was the game that convinced me to pre-order a GameCube, much better than the Starfighter games that were on PS2. Okay. Maybe that was what we were thinking about earlier. I forgot about the Starfighter games. I never played them.
Yeah, there was also like a weird... I mean, there was the racing game, but there was another racing game that I thought was a PS2.
You mean the one with the big head?
Super Bombad Racing.
Yeah, Bombad Racing. That was an exclusive, like when around the time of this game.
That game aesthetically gives me the willies.
Is that the one that have the big heads on the cover? Like Darth Maul and Yoda?
Yeah, they're all like chibi, right? And they're kind of Mario Kart-ish, but not...
I've never played it because that cover just... I didn't like the cover, so I never touched that game in my life.
I never played it.
So, yeah. All right. And then Fish Lichos, I remember seeing screenshots of the game and thinking the PS2 is done. Well, that turned out to be wrong, but I understand.
Look better.
And from Adam,
I think you guys are right. I think I was thinking of Starfighter as the game that was out in Christmas of 2001. Yeah, because it was a PlayStation 2 exclusive in 2001. Later it came out for Xbox. So that's okay. So that's the first time ever I was wrong.
All right. And from Adam Hackwork. So the Rogue Squadron movie was never canceled. It was postponed for the Wonder Woman sequel to Wonder Woman 84. Once that was canceled, the director, can't remember their name, Patty Jenkins, is supposedly working on the film again. Because I had brought up about that movie that we're never getting. I'm pretty sure that movie's been canceled. Squadron, it's not happening.
Yeah, it was delayed and then
which sucks because I would have liked the movie about Rogue Squadron.
I mean, as canceled as things are never fully canceled and things are never fully happening. They announce that Disney likes to announce Star Wars projects like just because like somebody thought of it was like, hey, maybe I'd like to do a Star Wars project someday. And then all the things Disney officially announces to their shareholders. But,
oh yeah, that's okay. I was sad because I was looking forward to when they were like, oh, we're gonna make this movie. I'm like, yes, and then they went, oh, Solo didn't work out. Bad, everything, shut down. But yeah,
I think it was more than just that.
I know, but Solo didn't help that situation.
There were.
I think they made all the.
People were mad about.
I think they made all the announcements kind of later than that because Solo. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Keep going.
And from the Star Wars May the Force Be With You, a fan group from Reggie Eberhardt. My all-time favorite Star Wars space combat game. I wish they would do a next generation of it. I miss Factor 5.
I love these guys that you're getting comments from. I'm with all of them.
I'm happy that people commented. This was a game I didn't know people would comment about, so I was happy.
For GameCube fans, I think it's a pretty high up there. Like it was always. I know IGN always talked high of it, but it was always something that I thought was a really good relaunch game. As far as system launch games go, I thought it was pretty tight. Depending on how
there aren't that many games where you can fly an X-wing since then. There's a few, but
definitely not as Wedge Antilles.
I think when I go to play the third one on GameCube, I'm gonna play through this one again on GameCube because I feel like I'm losing my brain hearing all this. I'm like, what? I guess I'm wrong.
I did want to say something that's really, really cool about the third one is you can actually play through the entirety of this one on that one in co-op split screen, which is amazing.
Wait, what?
In Rebel Strike, you can play through all of Rogue Leader in 2-player split screen, which blew my fucking mind that you could do that.
So they have the second game in the third game?
Yeah, they have the entire game on there, except it's in co-op now, which was never in co-op before. You can play it 2-player. So fine.
Can you play it 1-player?
No, I think it's only 2-player.
That's fine. I'll just do second player and I'll just ship into the space. But you go sit in the corner while I replay this game.
Yeah, it just blew my mind that they did.
That is wild.
The whole second game on there in 2-player, and I could never really play it because I didn't have anybody to play it with. But I did one time. One friend played it with me, and it was really cool.
That's always a special memory when you get that moment.
But I remember seeing it, and I was like, "Holy shit! Really? There's like 2 whole games, not to mention all the other shit." But yeah,
all right. And then a last group and comment from the Star Wars discussion room from Joseph Jack. It was so impressive that gaming evolved so much since the original game. Loved the Hoth battle. Yeah, all good things to say. I think if you didn't have any good things to say, you just didn't comment. And I'm tired of it.
It was a good level. Like
it's good, but I'm tired of it.
Legit.
I'm tired of Hoth. But I know I'll play more Hoth as I play more Star Wars games because Hoth and Star Wars go hand in hand.
I like snow better than sand because it's much colder and smoother.
I do like snow better than sand. To be fair, there's snow outside my door right now, but I don't like it. But there is snow. So
I do like snow.
All right, I should give away a code. Let me see what I have next to give away before we go to our rankings. Let's see here. What do I have? All right, next code is going to be the Little Acre for Steam. I don't know what this is, but your Steam code is ARVPDRKM7P9CFEB. That is your Steam code for the Little Acre, whatever the hell that is. There you go. All right, let's go to Shelf Stacker Box. And Milk, why don't you lead us in?
Why do you do this every time? I'm always like, I put it in the shelf. Yes, I think I can't. Like I keep hearing people talk about it, and I'm like, well, there's got to be something here. So I want to come back and give this game another try at some point. And I don't hate it. It's not. I didn't go through and like, oh, this is a bad game. It just had all these little tiny things like games do. I think from this era, and I played a lot of this era when it was around. But I just go back and I'm like, this is driving me nuts. And I just I don't remember it being like this, and I feel like I'm getting old about my own stuff. Where I'm like, what are we even doing? So yeah, I'd put on the shelf.
Oh, that's not what I expected when I had you go first. All right. And Trey.
I mean, I don't think I've ever non-shelved anything because I'm very much a shelf person. But no, this one's definitely on the shelf. I think we did like a GameCube ranking episode on our Patreon, and I'm pretty sure this was in my top 5.
All right.
So I hadn't replayed it, but I had great memories from it. And yeah, that last level is dumb, but I mean, I did beat it when I was younger, and I went through it again as fucking fake Lando because you can do that. And I thought that was really cool that every time you beat a level, you got extra vehicles that you can do, so you can go through the level again, and maybe it'll be a little bit easier with like a B-wing or whatever,
That is cool that you can do that.
But yeah, shelf that shit.
Okay. And Kendall.
So this is tough because, well, first of all, like I feel like why would I be on an episode that I wouldn't shelf the thing?
I'm on plenty.
So I'm gonna have to start grading on a curve here. Well, because yeah, but
I feel like that's kind of how it happened with me with this. I'm like, I felt a certain way, but then I heard everyone else, and I'm like, I guess it's got to go on the shelf. There's got to be something here. I'm just not seeing.
Well, like the thing is, like if I was gonna be organized, I would want every Star Wars thing that I have to literally be on my shelf. But as far as like if you were talking about like so let me put it through my, like, this is my curve now. I have a lot of Star Wars stuff, and let's say I only have one shelf for Star Wars games. This might not make it. So Stack is supposed to be in between.
Stack's in between, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, this made me want to play more Star Wars games.
Okay.
And I love all Star Wars games, but it was kind of frustrating. And mostly it made me like, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth with the last level, which is unfortunate with this type of game where you end up leaving the game frustrated because I left before I finished it. So I don't think I can put this on the shelf. I think that my shelf has freaking Jedi Power Battles and Star Wars Demolitions and Masters of Terras Kazi and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and the original Rogue Squadron. And did I say Dark Forces? Probably Dark Forces. That's my shelf. And then there's it probably also has some games that I haven't played on it, theoretically. But
yes,
honestly, this one is kind of going to be, I'm probably not going to revisit it. So,
okay.
Have you done a Masters of Terras Kazi episode?
I have not, but I have thought about it. If I have volunteered, that game's awful.
Masters of Terras Kazi is great. I mean, it's just Tekken 2, and Tekken 2 is great.
Sure. No, I mean, I played
Tekken
it.
2 is great.
One of the few people that played it.
Tekken 2 is great.
It's a game. It's got characters in there.
I mean, if you guys are volunteering to talk about it with me, I can arrange that because that game's actually been on my list to want to do at some point just because.
It's a fighting game. It won't take too long to get through it.
That's one reason, yes.
Yeah, there's a character named
short.
There's a character named with a name that I can't say on in mixed company.
Is it racist?
Is it THOK? Because that's a weird name that I don't like as I'm looking at this random video.
Oh yeah, Thok got introduced in that. So there's a Thok and Thug is two Gamorreans who they're in the Star Wars card game, and they're like this. They're like a really like.
Of course they are
iconic. It's an iconic, very powerful card. And so when I thought that they were named for the card game, but I found out that they were named from that the Gamorrean is named Thok. No. It's the one that's the one that's spelled HOR or HOAR.
HOAR or WHOAR. So WHAR. It's just HOAR. That's what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Stay tuned for in here, like ridiculous. Yeah.
For an episode about that game coming up at some point, because now I got people that I know will do it with me. So now I'm tempted.
Hey, you got Mara Jade in something. I know people like.
I like Mara Jade. I'm upset that she hasn't been in Star Wars yet, but we're going.
Oh, is Mara Jade in that?
Yeah, she's a playable.
She's one of my characters.
I knew there was another. There's like an original female character that's like the protagonist of the game.
I know you're talking. She's on the cover.
But yeah, I love that game. Yeah, first of all, it's a fighting game, so you can just sit down and do it. It's also like the only Star Wars fighting game other than the Wii version of The Force Unleashed.
It had the 2-player on there. I do wish there was other like Star Wars fighting games.
Wait, Revenge of the Sith had some fighting, I thought, right? For the PS2, or is that something?
Oh yeah, no, I guess it did. It had a 2-player mode.
I've never played that game really.
Oh, I have that one too. I played through that one also because I like that game. But...
All right, I should do my ranking. This is going on the stack. I don't hate this game enough, but I didn't love it. I mean, there were some good things. It was fun shooting down TIE bombers. It had some cool moments. I'm glad I was finally able to beat a game that my mom did buy me, that my mom did find after all these years. But I never need this game again. But I didn't hate it, so it goes in the stack. It's a game.
It's true.
So I'm glad we played it though. I mean, it's been on my list forever, so it made me feel good to get another one knocked off. And then I should introduce what we're talking about next week. Next, you can hear me talk about Assassin's Creed Rogue as I continue my journey to play all those games. I like that series.
That's a lot. And that was a game I was so excited to love and didn't. I'm going to go listen to that episode.
So you go from Star Wars Rogue to Assassin's Creed Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Then you're going to play like Rogue the Bat?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Rogue the Acrobat?
The next game involves a little bit of swinging around the city. So
it's
Rouge the Bat.
Maybe I spelled it wrong.
Listen, we can just make it work. It's fine. It's close enough.
If you ever want to play Sonic Adventure 2, let me know.
You can just play Rogue.
There's Rogue. Mm-hmm.
I haven't done Sonic Adventure 1, but I did Adventure 2 already. And Shadow the Hedgehog. Ooh, that masterpiece.
Oh, yeah. That's always one I wanted to play just for the hell of it, but it's
no, you don't.
Too expensive.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Don't even you don't know what you're saying. I have played a lot of games for this podcast. That game is on the list of bad. Like
which one? Which
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Oh, weren't you on the episode, Milk? You're supposed to be.
No, I should have been. God, I think we take this offline because I have feelings.
All right, we should go to plugs. And Trey, where we'll find you at?
Nintendo Main Podcast.com. We have the website. I don't know, just Google it.
My
wife and I, we did our annual Oscar commentary. Every year we get really drunk and talk during the Oscars and record it and put it online because we think it's funny. You can listen to that. I just put it up a few hours before this, so I've been pretty busy, but recording podcasts. But yeah, and there's stuff on Patreon.com/Nintendo Main Podcasts. We have a bunch of extra shows on there, various things. We're 400 some episodes. Yeah. It's actually almost our 10-year anniversary of Nintendo Main, so it's
pretty good.
It's I think August of this year will be 10 years, so we're up there. So there's plenty of them.
In Kendall.
So Kendallcast.ninja, Kendallcast Network on YouTube. Hey, I posted my Oscars episode, but it was
I remember somebody had an Oscar party on here in the chat.
Yep. Yeah, I went to did an Oscars party, and I did not do. I got 6 out of the awards correct, I think, and I
did all right. I don't remember what I did last year, but I think I got 8. But whatever.
I didn't remember what we did last night. But
yeah. I watched all the Best Picture nominees and did a little bit on that. But and then Movie Roundtable, we just did an episode on The Fugitive or Casablanca, or maybe Casablanca hasn't posted yet. I'm not sure. And then
it's out in less than a week.
Yeah,
from the time you hear it.
More stuff
that we're recording this.
More stuff with Star Wars CCG, and then there's some video game content on the YouTube Kendallcast Network on YouTube. I have a review of Steel Rising for the PS5. It's a Souls-like where you're in the French Revolution, a robot in the French Revolution. But that's where you can find me.
All right, and Milk, did you have anything to plug?
No. It's just me here, baby. This is Milk Zone now.
Okay,
I guess.
Just wanted to double check because
No, I appreciate it.
All right, if you enjoyed this episode, over 750 other episodes of this podcast, you can find everything we do on Podbean. If you want to hear the rest of our Star Wars content, which there is a lot of it will be in the show notes. There's over some episodes or something crazy like that now. I think I haven't counted in a long time. There's a lot. I do a lot of Star Wars content. So go check out.
Really that much? I don't even think there's that much Star Wars content.
I mean,
a few games and a few movies.
Definitely go check out everything that we've done. If you want to support the show, we do have Patreon, a little dog vote in our Patreon poll. You will see a link in the show notes to that. If you want to be a part of the show, if you want to chat with us, if you want to suggest things, we have a Discord. It's free. Join the Discord. You'll see a link in the show notes for that. Want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro courtesy Helena at Hell Has Fear. Follow her on TikTok and Instagram if you go check her out. And please check out A Gamer Looks at 40 with Bill Tucker. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Thread, Blue Sky, YouTube, TikTok. Rate and reviews wherever you get your podcast. I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Later.